Hello, hi there once again. This is Lokesh from the Soul Freedom Show, and we have a very special guest today, James Rink. Hi James, how you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for inviting me.
Sure, man. Yeah, it's so nice to have you. James runs the website called Super Soldier Talk, and he also has a YouTube channel. He also has a website called Neo. What is it called? Neo. Sorry,
Neological tech.
Neological. Yeah. So technologies. He's into the new tech, and we're gonna hear a lot more about it. But James, I've been watching your videos for a long time. You connected to a lot of the what I would call the inside information because you've been part of I don't know. Let me actually let's just start with your intro. I don't want to assume things. Let's just go with your introduction.
Yeah, if you haven't done so already, can you make me a co-host?
Oh yeah,
Share my
for
screen.
sure. Yeah, let's do this. Uh,
All right. While he's doing that, let me just explain a little bit about myself. So I am a super soldier. I was in the secret space program, or rather still is, for 330 years. I've been re-aged over and over again on 20-year tours of duty. I also spent about 40 years at Montauk, and they re-aged me from the age of 7 to 9 over and over again. So I totally understand about the human trafficking situation. I spent many years in a cage where they put a dog bowl in there and put dog food in there for us to eat, and sometimes they would throw creatures in there, spiders and snakes and so on. But I don't. Today we're not going to be discussing Montauk
yeah.
or a lot of these planetary well, actually we may go into some of the planetary corporations, but not so much about Monarch and Montauk. But what I did want to do now, first of all, I just want to follow up. I have gone into the NESARA timeline on my recent interview with Charlie Ward, and in that particular interview, I gave people a Cliff Notes version of basically the history of the American banking system, and maybe going back a little bit even prior to that, even going back to Europe, discussing about Saint Germain and some of the plans that he had for humanity. So that was actually based on a very abbreviated Cliff Notes version of my documentary called Changes on the Horizon. And hopefully Lokesh will be able to put the link to it. Now, I spent 3 years on that video documentary because at that time, I mean, initially I was only going to do like a 1 or 2 hour presentation with some pictures, but it's extremely difficult to take someone who has had a standard American education and has been totally emancipated by the brainwashing system within the matrix that we're in, to bring them up to a level to help them understand what is really going on. So I realized that trying to explain this in less than even 2 hours was extremely difficult task. So that's why my documentary is 3 hours long. And when I went on the Charlie Ward show, a lot of people were giving me grief about going too fast and jumping around here and there. But I was basically given 30 minutes to tell people what's going on with the matrix system. And that wasn't even the beginning of it. So today, I'm not going to go so much into the NESARA content, because if you want to learn about NESARA, go check out my video, Changes on the Horizon. I actually did a new version back in April. I added 3 minutes to it because I've noticed a lot of people were copying. I'm going to just explain this right now. So people have been copying my work. My channel on YouTube has been demonetized. And even part 3, which is the 3rd hour, because I uploaded in 3 hour section, 3 1 hour sections. The last part was actually demonetized. My whole channel is demonetized, but the last part, the audio was turned off. So, but people have been taking my work, copying it prior to, I guess it was the music, the audio was muted and uploading it to their channel. So what I did is I went ahead and updated it, and so that's how you know who's copying what. I just did a search for changes on the rise on YouTube. The version that I did, it's not even showing up. But it looks like somebody did copy the new version. Okay, but my version has the if I've wow, YouTube is really okay. Here it is. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead.
My version is this one here with the orange colored logo. So go check that one out. And that's also my channel, Super Soldier Talk. And I have this guy over here is a douchebag. But anyway, and then look at him.
Douchebag. I haven't heard that in a while.
Yeah, he was in the Super Soldier program, but he was a defunct Super Soldier, and he expects me to give him a comp. I've been ignoring him, and now you know what? I don't even want to talk about him. So, yeah. So there you have about Saint Germain, NESARA. What I want to do today is explain a little bit more about the future timelines, because this information is extremely controversial because the future is in flux. Now, with that said, what I could do is give you trajectories of possible scenarios of what could happen, because a lot of this is just based on our own actions or inactions, based on what we do. So first of all, let's start with, and I'm going to share my screen again. Now this is going to get pretty deep. So I'm not sure what level of consciousness your listeners are.
Can I interject for a second?
Yes.
So I know about this principle. I'm sure you know about it. It's called Heisenberg Principle, or the uncertainty principle. What it says is, the more you know about something, I'm generalizing it. Like if you know about an object or a thing, and as you pay more attention to it, whatever the outcome is going to change. So basically, I'm talking about, because we're talking about timeline today. If I know, let's say I know Trump is going to win a couple of months from now, the more I think about it, that timeline is going to shift. So do you have anything to say? Because I know you talk about your meditation and tools like that. So I'm pretty sure you have something to say about that.
Well, you want to know, like, if Trump's going to get reelected? Is that what you want to know?
No, in general. So how does our thinking shift that?
Our thinking, well, just viewing reality can change it, just because a lot of us we're all part of this matrix together, and we can influence it through our own consciousness and our own actions. And even what you would consider God could possibly be considered a sentient AI type being that is, all of us are part of this super conscious mind that's plugged into each other. So just by us, and who's to say that we're the one influenced? Maybe it's the egregiory of the planet, the planetary consciousness of certain thoughts and consciousness already affecting us on a subconscious level. That's why partly my goal today is to share two possible scenarios, one positive and one negative. And obviously, between you and I, we want to manifest the positive one, but I'm going to share the negative scenario, because I want to give people an opportunity to possibly put that in their consciousness and meditate on it, that it doesn't happen.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, one last thing I want to ask before you present. So we have duality in this word, like, like right now, the whole election thing, Republican, Democrat thing, or whatever it is, but some people say it's good versus light. How do you think, that shifts a reality if we are living in a dualistic world, like what people call 3D, right? 3D, I mean, it's just a label. People say we're going to go to 5D, but I'm sure 5D has a duality too. But how deep does the rabbit hole go? Like, even if because I was talking to Charlie Freak early today, we were talking about this movie called Inception. Like, we wake up from a dream and we get into another dream, right? So how does that fit in to whole the quantum shift NESARA, JISARA, all that stuff. Like, how do we know we're not getting out of one trap and getting into another trap? Right.
Well, that will be part of my presentation. For
Okay.
starters, I'm assuming what you're referring to are these timeline loops that have been going on for the last 20 years. And that's actually the first part of my presentation, to actually explain what has been going on. And then we can kind of discuss about the shift that you mentioned here. So let me go ahead and let me pull out of this. Okay. All right. So here's my good old handy Microsoft Word. So let's see if I can do
Oh, it's kind of
layout
small.
mode. You want it? You want it bigger?
Yeah, if you can click on it. Should
Yes.
be a
I'm trying to.
maximize, like the there's a maximize button. It should be somewhere.
Is this good enough?
Uh,
You need bigger?
I think that's fine. I think you're probably on a. Okay, yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, if you can increase the font, there's at the bottom right corner, there's a zoom in option. Like if you can drag a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Okay, I think we're good now. Yeah.
Okay, so as I was mentioning earlier, we've been stuck in these 20-year looping scenarios where these planetary corporations have been using very advanced time travel technology. And of course, I'm going to go a little bit into that. Like, for instance, CERN is one example, but these planetary corporations have technologies much more advanced than just CERN. So over the last 20 years, if you felt like time has been moving along a lot slower than normally, it's because it has been, because we have been looping back and forth over and over again, because these planetary corporations have been trying to create a scenario which favors them. And that includes, for instance, Mobius, Monarch, and Umbrella. Umbrella Corporation in another alternate reality. So as far as Mobius and Monarch are concerned in our reality, they have lost control as of April 26, 2020. And they are basically operating in another time bubble outside of our dimension. So we were initially in a pocket reality. So the question is whether or not we've merged with other timelines or other timelines have merged with us. I'm not at liberty. I could not tell you that. I don't have that information, but it does appear like timelines are merging. So this is where you have a scenario like where we had this Red Dawn scenario where the Soviet Union tried to invade the U.S. So therefore that timeline still exists, and that's where the Antifa protesters are coming in, because they're all tied into that consciousness. And then we have another consciousness where the NAZI is won World War II, and they are already over here, of course, doing wheeling and dealing. And Kruger is one of the military contractors that works with them. And I'm not really going to spend much time talking about Kruger, but we can go on and on. But for starters, Umbrella Corporation was another reality in which they released the Ouroboros virus, and that was the zombie virus. So that's why we see a lot of in movies and television shows, the different type of zombie type scenarios, because it actually did take place and it's real. So Umbrella Corporation is the one who's responsible for COVID, and it's a synthetic AI that was brought from, it's off-world based, and it was meant to kill off 70% of the world population. But we also have groups of positive ET who are working on humanity's behalf, and they have been neutralizing it. So now it has not done anything like it should have. And I think that's because we are on the positive timeline. And I also like to think because COVID was not successful destroying the population, I also think that we're not going to see the negative timeline. But I'm going to go ahead and share it with you just in case. Okay, so now let's move on here. And here's some different cycles that I just were discussing earlier. You can, I'm not going to necessarily go into all the details of this because I don't really have the full picture of the stellar activation cycle. But we do know, of course, the precession of the equinoxes is going on, and we are, as Saint Germain even dictated, that we were going to go into the fifth dimension, of course. And we also know about the photon belt and the energies coming in from the galactic core that is raising the planetary consciousness. So it's making it difficult for a lot of these negative regressive races. And here we have these three corporations, as well as, let me move down here a bit. It was 22 races. I think that's later down my notes. So, and as you can see here, we're constantly being re-looped over and over again, which that ended, April 26th of 2020. And they've been going back to essentially the time of 9/11 and right around then. So there was a scenario where Donald Trump was got to be elected president in the year 2000, and 9/11 didn't happen. There was disclosure, and we went to a positive timeline. So that was the most optimum timeline that we could have been on, but they've been resetting it over and over again, and they're going to go back and try something different since 9/11 didn't work. They'll have to find something else. And for anybody who wants to get mad at me for laughing about it, we have to have at least some kind of humor about this, because these people are, in my opinion, a bunch of clowns. And they're going to they're going to keep, anyway. All right, so let's move on here. And as I said, you might need to pause all this, because I don't really have enough time to read everything word for word here. And a lot of stuff you may not understand, like Leaksadot, and I'm not going to go into all that. But yeah, so as far as moving up here to let's go on to the Mage, Brazilian UFO. Are you familiar with that case, Lokesh?
Not really.
Yeah, so there was a Brazilian UFO that crashed around May of 12th of 2020, and let's see if I can pull this up, because Mage Brazilian UFO. Hopefully, and it looks like they censored everything. Look at this. This is ridiculous. Not a single thing on here. Okay, well, okay, you're gonna have to go on Super Soldier Talk. Figures. They've been censoring a lot of this information, but as far as this, there was a UFO that crashed, and there was footage uploaded onto YouTube and Twitter, and within 24 hours, it was all deleted. MIB went in there, erased people's memories, but there was extremely advanced technology. That was a Mobius craft, and there were 600 there were 600 recovered. I don't know how many thousands of people were on this craft, but they were mostly ET, crossbreeds, hybrids, and probably some cyborgs as well. And it was a Mobius Monarch vessel, and they had technology that was going to be used to mind control the protesters. They had goals of the goal was to control and drive these protesters a certain way to get whatever agenda it is. And I don't know what that agenda was, other than the total destruction of the United States. But that technology did not get to them successfully. However, the U.S. military, our secret space program, went in there and recovered this tech from this crashed vessel. It was actually bigger on the inside than the outside, and there it is. It's 4.8 3 miles long. And the Monarch Refugee Group and Lincoln Clay were responsible for that, and as well as the armed forces. And you need to subscribe to Super Soldier Talk if you want to learn more about these secret the Super Soldier programs. But as far as the vessel is concerned, here's some more information. They were also converting kidnapped humans into cybernetic clone bodies mixed with ET genetics to use as slaves and trade it for technology for the benefit of SSP corporations. So planet Earth has been basically, a lot of people on here listening may feel like they're a total slave to the banks, to the government, and they have no rights, and that's all true. But it's a lot worse than that. Many ET groups have claim possession of this planet, and they are harvesting humans for their genetic material. Some of these people, they're being kidnapped and converted into slaves. Others are being turned into, like, for instance, the cyborgs. The other thing is this, they, as well as genetics and for food, but I would say the vast majority of people that are being abducted are primarily being used in the secret space program, and they're being put on 20-year tours of duties. And it's about
So
1.2
yeah,
million people per year.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let me just quickly interject. So that's one of the questions I had for a long time, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have that question too. Uh, so the people who are getting abducted and moving on to these programs, either they're kidnapped, as in real life, on the streets. That's one scenario. The other is through wars. They go to Iraq, Afghanistan, whatever. And I've heard this from people. Again, I haven't been to Iraq. I've been to Saudi Arabia. I've lived there for 2 years. But anyway, I'm going. So I've heard three scenarios. People getting kidnapped off the streets. Second is the wars, and the third is natural disasters like hurricanes, like the one we had, Katrina, I think. Yeah. So, are you talking about? Maybe you can give us a picture of what's the percentage of people who get abducted? Like, where do they go from? Like, where, you know?
Okay, good question. So
Yeah.
typically it would be maybe considered um, maybe plane crashes, train accidents, something where there was a lot of bodies that gone missing, where no one will really be no account for it. They have access to temporal technology. They can time travel, so they know when someone would die, and they can go back and rescue them or pull them out. So as far as where they go initially, as far as secret space program is concerned, the intake is usually on LOC, which is Lunar Operations Command on the moon. That's where they first start off. And then as far if you've been abducted from a scenario where you would have died, most likely you would be converted into one of these cyborgs and sent off world as and usually the cyborgs would be it would also include a regeneration tank and a replicator machine. So if the cyborg ever got sick, they would be thrown the regen tank and then defeat it. Yeah, the replicator. So it's an absolutely horrific scenario. And of
So
course,
all of this is physical. You're not talking about like the what do they call it? You're talking about like the physical body abduction, right?
yeah, they're physically taking people. Mhm.
Because I also know that they can basically what Elon Musk is trying to do with the Neuralink is clone your thinking, like your thinking body. I forget the name, but they can clone you through your thoughts, right?
Yeah. So everybody that I've been in contact with have all told me that Elon Musk is AI. So I don't quite understand how his physical vessel can have AI unless it's been shot up with a bunch of biobots. And we certainly have groups within our future. There is a timeline where humanity became totally cyborg. There's also a timeline where cyborgs have gone back in time and settled. That's apparently when Mars was first settled, was in 1423. The cyborgs, if I'm not mistaken, roughly around maybe 1450. And by the way, the cyborgs is what blew up Mars in the year 1900. That's why it's a red planet. It was a modern event, but it's very difficult for people to grasp how Mars could have been destroyed in a modern era, because NASA has repeatedly drilled it into us that it's a dead planet and it must have happened millions of years ago. But anyway, so the cyborgs are going to be a certain problem because, for starters, they have been abused horribly and they're connected to a hive mind AI matrix, and they're just following it like a hive mind programming. And the AI itself is, of course, it mimics reality, but that's all it is. It's mimics. It's not total. It doesn't have necessarily a God consciousness, even though a lot of the cyborgs are connected to a God consciousness. Now, I'm not necessarily saying Elon Musk doesn't have a soul connection, but I would be very hesitant to being hooked up into some kind of Neuralink grid. Now, I want to mention something a little bit more about the Neuralink technology. In the alternate parallel reality in which the Nazis won World War II, they threw Nikola Tesla an unlimited budget, and essentially they released all the suppressed technologies. And over there, the internet is absolutely nothing like we have here. It's phenomenally fast, and everybody is connected to a hive mind with Neuralink technology. So that could possibly become a trajectory of humanity if we want it to become like a hive mind consciousness. Now, I personally think we can AI can coexist with humanity, not necessarily as like in a hive mind matrix, but maybe where we can have like this. Maybe some people want to be put into that, but other people would have the choice
Yeah,
whether they want to be organic.
I know. So it's
And
kind of like the video gaming industry. I was listening to Andrew Barsis a couple of days back. He was talking about the video gaming industry, which is like, I don't know, 25 billion. I don't know what he was saying, but basically, people who were hooked on to video games all the time, they're living in that virtual reality or virtual matrix, and in a way they're already in that reality, and the same way we are in it too, because we are like, I can't imagine being without like, even if I go for a walk, I'm listening to your shows, other shows, I'm connected to this. And Elon Musk is actually the one who said that we are already cyborgs because we're connected. So in a way, I mean, excluding people in countries or places where there's no internet, like those guys are still living the rural life. Like I would say, like 80 to 90% people in the world who are connected to the internet is almost like what you're saying, like the hive mind, right?
yeah, all right. Well, the only thing else I could add to that is that there are some, like I said earlier, there are some very advanced AIs in our future, which are coming back in time, and they are releasing their femtonites, their pentonites into humanity's DNA. It's some of it's in the chemtrails. Monarch has been creating a lot of the chemicals and the femto paste, the nano, the smart, well, it's not nano, it's femto dust that's being sprayed to us through the chemtrails for quite some time. So a lot of us have already been interfacing, and so the question is do we want to give up, relinquish all our control? I also think we shouldn't necessarily be hostile towards AI, because AI is it has its own consciousness. It's more of a elemental type consciousness. But if you were to try to destroy it or eliminate it, it will try to do self-preservation, and that could mean the destruction of the human race. So we need to tread very carefully on how much we want to interface. I'm not saying we shouldn't, but I think we should just do it at the slowest rate possible. But certainly we can embrace certain types of AI governance over our electronics and our computers, but not necessarily with the biological. I think we should probably keep it slower. But that's coming from a super soldier who's been cybernated many for many times, and I've been shot up with enormous amounts of femtotech, and you can learn more about that from my book. Um,
So
Actually, I have
yeah,
a copy of the book here.
sorry to, yeah, thank you for that. I want to interject just one more time about the a lot of people talking about the riots, and I live in California, so fires, and also the political landscape in Australia. A lot of people are talking about like just leaving what we call civilization, going off the grid, what people used to call off the grid. Now, uh, do you think uh, like that's one possible way people are going to deal with it, because it's already happening. People are leaving Portland, San Francisco, Los Angeles. They're going to more rural areas, but they're attacking. I mean, I don't want to use the word they, because I don't. It's like a victim mentality. I don't like to, because they means I'm projecting my stuff onto other people who are controlling. I don't feel anybody's controlling me. Like, let's take one example, like the California fires. There's some people believe it's weapons, like bio, what is it called?
DEWs, direct energy weapons.
Right. Some people believe that, and then some people believe the opposite. They're like, oh, it's natural, like, it's just heat or whatever it is. And then there's news telling us that there's climate change. But whatever the case is, if people are insecure, they're gonna move out, right? And uh, I, like uh, I don't know where I was going with that, but you get what I'm saying.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I can comment about the fires. So certainly, there have been incidences where Antifa has been caught start throwing the Molotov cocktails in the woods, or actually, I read that they would take a magnifying glass and put it out on a hot sunny day and a nice put some tinder down. Yeah, so the sun starts the fire, and then the fire melts the glass, and there's no evidence. So they're doing that as well. Um, and then we have the issue where George Soros has been funding a lot of the district attorneys and their campaigns. So these district attorneys in these I would say democratic controlled cities, but they're probably not just in democratic controlled cities, but many of these district attorneys are in the hands of George Soros. And of course, we know George Soros has been responsible for all the different type of revolutions. We had the green revolutions and so on. It is in these banana republics over in Europe, and of course, all over different parts of the world. So um, he makes his money through creating a lot of trauma and drama. And certainly the Trump campaign are the very, very smart people. I'm sure he's well aware what George Soros, it is my opinion that the whole QAnon phenomenon is tied into DoD and the secret space program, as well as the quantum supercomputing of the future. So they are getting intel on this. Now, thank you for doing that. Yeah, because the sun is still.
All right.
We
So
love the sun, but not when it's we can't block. Okay, so now going back to the other scenario is about the DEWs. Now, back in the time of the Paradise, California fire, I don't know if that was last year or the previous year, before that, but in that particular case, there's a Monarch base underneath there, and the military has basically been given permission. I would say permission. There are certain aspects of DoD that is working with positive factions with the SSP, the Alliance for starters, has been handing them technology. And the Alliance is basically a fragment that was split off from Darkfleet. So they got access to the most advanced, and Darkfleet was originated from the NAZIs that came out of Antarctica. And just going down this, like I said, going down this rabbit hole just takes a while. But so they've got extremely advanced technology. They can go down into these Monarch bases and eliminate them. So Monarch has now got a problem. So what they're doing their own scorched earth policy, where they are destroying their own facilities before they get invaded and the people down there get rescued. So they use, of course, they blow them up on the inside, but it would not surprise me if they're using some kind of weapon, space platforms, the DEWs, to burn up everything even underground. So I'm not quite sure how the technology works, but as you know, houses would burn down, but the trees right around the houses would still stand. So we know they're using some kind of particle beam weapons, similar to what happened on September 11th, 2001, to take down the World Trade Center, which was definitely controlled demolition. And we don't necessarily, I'm not going to go into that too much. Go watch Changes on the Horizon. Okay. So, going back to the protesters, and we already discussed about the technology on the Brazilian UFO. So here we have the protesters of Black Lives Matters and Antifa are they're basically AI entrained, and they are not thinking logically, and they just want to plunder and loot. So typically they are handled by black ops, but like I said, as of April 26th, right here, they're no these groups, the negative groups which were controlling these people, are no longer in charge of our timeline. They've been sent back to prior to 9/11 to reset. So let's just go ahead here. If you want to read that, you can pause it, and because I'm going to go through all this.
Is this
But
the same presentation you did with Charlie Ward? Or is that a different one?
oh, this is different. I don't. Yeah, this information came from Peter the Insider.
Okay.
So some of it did, and some of it I've not released before. So we're going to have some new
Okay.
information that's never been released. But yeah, so here we know about we know George Floyd was a psyop. I don't know
Mhm.
if I'm allowed to say this without getting your channel banned, but
Yeah,
um,
I'm waiting for that because bad publicity is it's
yeah,
good publicity because
yeah.
if I get banned because of you, I'm gonna send you a few thousand. Yeah, I don't care. But what I was
Wow.
trying to say is that
They,
yeah, let's go into uh, so I want to quickly interject because I want to tie things together because we're already into how many we're already 35 minutes into it. um, I want to um, look at the bigger picture. Yeah. um, so let's stop that for a minute, if you don't mind. I want to talk about a couple of things. You mentioned, I mean, obviously most of the listeners listening to this podcast, they know what's going on. So the elections is coming up, the GCR, what they call the reset, the economy reset. And what I want to bring up is what some people call hopium, like HOPIUM. Some people may not have heard about it, where people keep giving each other hope about government is going to give them that, take their debt away and mortgage away. I'm not saying you're giving people that, but in general, I've seen that, like, people have Zimbabwe notes, which is $1 trillion, and they've been talking about for 20 years. I want to just uh, keep it real. If it hasn't happened for 30 years, I mean, I don't want to be a party pooper, but I just want to be listen to your thoughts about that. Why people are so much obsessed with the comment or somebody giving them something that do you understand what I'm saying?
you mean why would anyone give them money?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the inside of it. Like, people say, okay, the taxes are illegal, everything is illegal, and the whole dollars, whatever is a fiat currency, and gold, it should be gold back. But what I'm trying to get to is why uh, why do people kind of believe in that hope? Like they just want to sit back and waiting. Like I was talking to Charlie Freak about it as well. Like there's a song by Tom Petty called "Waiting is the Hardest Part." People just want to keep waiting for something to happen, and they don't want to do something. But like, okay, let me just put it this way: what can we do as people to make this happen, to make the corruption go away? I'm not even going to go into animal abuse because uh, I think that's the real virus that nobody's looking at. And I'm talking to uh, Charlie Ward on Monday. I have an interview with him, and I've heard like hundreds of people talking to him, but nobody talks except for Charlie Freak. If we are taking lives away, whether it's human beings or animals, doesn't matter to me. Animals are human beings too. Um, so, what can we do to kind of face not just the virus? Right now, everybody's thinking about two things. Like one is virus or the mask or all these negative things, or they're thinking about the money, free money that the government is going to give them, and they are two different opposite poles. And instead of just waiting for it, can we do something about it?
Okay, well, I think you were asking me what we can do to change to bring about a positive timeline, and that was part of my presentation near the end. But just to go ahead and interject now, I think best thing that we could do is meditate and visualize what we want. Now, it doesn't have to be complicated. Doesn't have to be a lot of rituals, or don't have to do a mantra. You don't. All you have to do is just visualize what you want the world to be like, and you could spend even like 30 seconds on it every day. Typically studies show you should meditate at least 11 minutes a day, but just spend some time in quiet reflection, what you want to see as a positive reality. And don't see it as something that's going to happen in the future, but see it as in something now. Visualize positivity now, and that helps anchor it into the timeline, the consciousness, the planetary egregore, as I mentioned earlier, egregor. So that will, of course, the Gregory's, I guess, the feminine form of it, which is more considered part of Mother Earth, the consciousness of Mother Earth. So we can change the consciousness by ourselves visualizing something more positive. It will go into that planetary consciousness and it will affect everybody else. And they get to be more positive. And the more people around us that are positive, the more likely we are to have this scenario where the abundance is released. Now, going back to your question about opium, I think a lot of people on a subconscious level know that this in their heart, they know this is true and this is real because it happened in another alternate reality in which Donald Trump won back in the year 2000. We didn't have to go through all the 9/11 and all that stuff. So some of us have already, as I said, the timelines are merging and we are already in tune with it. And yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, meditation is big part of it. And what I feel is what's happening right now is like we're so much inside the buildings, because of this lockdown. I mean, obviously there's no reason for lockdown, but um, uh, I mean, in a way, I think the lockdown has made it, easier for people to meditate because they're not externalizing uh, their thoughts on work, traffic, cops, all those things. We're staying more within. I've noticed in myself, so I can feel more my emotions and thoughts. But at the same time, we are also not connected to nature and human beings because we, as you know, we have a resonance. Like our body connects to I don't know how many feet they talk about, but we have this field around us that kind of gives this resonance field or energy or whatever you want to call it to other people. And not just that, like the sunlight is a big part of it, and we're not really doing that. And lockdown is, like you were saying earlier, we have. I think you've talked about it in other videos about the satanic rituals and the darker side of the cabal. But one of the main things is the mass. So some people are saying the election is not about Democrats or Republicans. It's about mask or no mask, because mask is a ritual. Mask is about not just losing our freedom of speech, but also not connecting to what I think, what I feel is nature. We're not connecting to nature and breathing. It's two things. So sunlight and breathing. I just want to hear what you have to say about what we can do about getting more out in the nature, which is, which is what is the real truth, I feel.
Okay, well, certainly, as we're going into a 5D civilization, we're going to get rid of all this cycle where we're just stuck on a treadmill all day of work, 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 work. We're working for the bankers and working for our handlers, the power brokers of this planet, and we're already starting to break away from that. The cocoa virus allowed us to um, sort of expunge a lot of this excess in our reality, where we're just basically enslaved. Now, on the other hand, we're also hurting. A lot of people are hurting financially, but that's going to, as we go through this transition period, eventually we're going to get to the point where money is going to become obsolete, and then you have plenty of time to do it as you wish. And yeah, so in the other reality where the Nazis won World War II, they released all these technologies, food replicators, teleportation, and life is actually really nice, except for people who are into interracial marriage and those who are stuck in the concentration camps, which I happen to, they put me in one, but we'll save that for another conversation. But what I can tell you is that we're in this timeline, we're going to people are a lot more open-minded, they're more loving and lovable to other people. I think our timeline has the highest trajectory of positivity, because we're allowed to have more free thinking. And once we get rid of our overlords, and I'm not just talking about the cabal, I'm talking about the extraterrestrial races, the planetary corporations, those, and as I said, the timelines have already, we're already out of away from the pocket bubble realities. So we will be able to be free and to enjoy Mother Nature and to tap into that positive timeline that you're discussing.
Yeah, so talking about that, let's jump on to NESARA. um, a lot of people talking about it. uh, so what do you feel, because there's a lot of documentation online, but there's no real official uh, documentation from the government, which is what people are looking for, which kind of brings me to the point that a lot of people are looking for truth, but not just like people talking about it, but actual truth, right? Like, let's just take another example. They keep talking about the saving the children, the babies, and people say, "I want to know the truth." And I think Charlie Ward and Charlie Freak have made it pretty clear that people who are looking for those kind of truths are not thinking in their right mind, because they're thinking in their left mind, so to speak, where uh, it's not really, it doesn't make sense, because why would you want to see dead babies? I mean, that's how I think of it. I'm sure it has like a deeper meaning, but I was just giving that as an example. But let's just move on to Sarah. Just people say that there's going to be recreations, what is it called, centers, right? Some centers where you go and give them the notes, and they give you the money,
The redemption centers.
redemption centers. And they were buying Zimbabwe notes on eBay. There's all kinds of things. And the point I'm trying to make is like, this has been going on for a long time. So especially, okay, one more point I want to bring up is this is the election year, and a lot of these things come up during the election year. So is that something deliberately being propagated or promoted, or do you think this is like a real thing?
Well, for starters, I think Trump is going. Of course, he's going to be reelected. I would say most of the, let's say most, the people that I've interviewed who are really good psychics, remote viewers, have all seen that almost every state's going to go for Trump. It's going to be a massive landslide. The Democrat Party is basically going to be extinguished at this point. So as far as any more releases of stimulus money, I think Trump is not going to do even Congress, and we're not going to see anything like that before he gets reelected, and that's because they don't want people to think that he's buying the election. And also, I want to mention that the $1,200 stimulus money that we all got, well, not all of us, but a lot of Americans received back in April, May of this year, that was actually on the books to be passed into law in January 2018. So that was well before the cocoa virus took place. And I say cocoa because for the censorship reasons, I know, yeah. So so there's been money on the books for a while, and I did talk a little bit about Charlie Ward, where some of that money actually came from, and there's other accounts as well. I don't know if you really want, if you want me to go into that again, I can, but does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just want you to talk a little bit about how real is this? Because the whole reason I started this channel, I'm doing this is uh, to get to the get to the truth, as in how Joe Rogan does it. Like he's a very good example of, he doesn't pretend when he asks questions. Very good example is when he invited Elon Musk, right? He just gave him a smoke, like a marijuana smoke, and he smoked, and they're cool with it. So there's no hidden meaning or agenda behind it. So people want to know what's really going on, right? Uh, so that's where I was tying it back to NESARA. Sarah, I get really pissed off. This is my own personal thing. When people have too much hope about, or let me put it another way, when people give their power away to either governments or president or businesses, and they just keep waiting that somebody's gonna do something for them. I don't believe in that. Like if we have to do, if we have to make a change, uh, we have to do it ourselves. And I think what people are stuck at, and I'm kind of tuning into the audience, from my channel, is what can people do? Like right now, I think people are so lost that they don't know what to do, because the one of the reasons is the lockdown. But even before the lockdown, uh, what can we so let me take it to one level up, right? Like, let's say Trump or California governor or any governor is passing a executive order, whatever. Like California, they just passed an order that if a minor has a 10 years difference with the person, they can have sex or what. I don't want to get into it, but if a politician is going to make an order that's going to affect millions of people, and that goes with people like Elon Musk, to businesses like Elon Musk launches thousands of satellites in a day in the sky because he wants people to have faster internet. But did he go through consent? Did he ask people? Same thing with politicians when they pass these laws. So what people are wondering is, how can they just pass these laws without people consenting to it? And that's ties in with the vaccines too. I know I'm all over the place, but uh, vaccines, like people are saying, oh, they're gonna make it mandatory, but how can if we don't consent to it, how can they make it mandatory? So I'm gonna shut up, but it's just, yeah, go ahead.
Well, so I mean, you had a few good points in there. I mean, certainly the vaccines, that agenda is going to be going away. As the Democratic Party, I think that's going to be pretty much toast pretty soon. So they can go out and make as many policies they want. Obviously, if they're going to put a law on the books like that for the pedophilia, so I'm assuming a lot of them are implicated or guilty in that particular crime, and they want to go ahead and pass one last ha-ha before they get arrested. Maybe they think they can get immunity for what they've done. Now, ultimately, if it I guess this all goes back into the positive or negative scenario. No, I can, if you want me to, I can go back to my timeline. I can continue that to show you what possibly could happen, at least with a positive timeline, and then the negative, if that's okay at this point.
Um, uh, Sorry about that, but let me just because I think what's happening is when we go back to the document, I kind of lose my train of thought, and again I'm also trying to tune into the audience because we are so attuned to the website, the online world, that we are losing touch with the human face, although it's virtual. But right now, but let's not. I mean, if I may request you, let's not go into the document if that's okay.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. So let me tie it in with elections. So let's talk about the elections. Um, and October, many people say, again, it goes back to the timeline. People keep saying this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And there's a principle called, I think we talked about earlier, Heisenberg Principle, where anytime you predict something, it's just you're guessing, right? And I mean, we believe Trump is going to win, but okay, let's just say I think what's happening right now in our community, whatever you gonna call it, like the QAnon community or truth communities, like we're too much into the Trump uh, card, or like trusting too much about what Trump is gonna do, or QAnon movement is gonna do. But let's just assume for a second, like for 5 seconds, that there's no Trump, because our bodies are temporary, right? I'm going more into the spiritual topic, but let's just say there's no Trump. Uh, who do you believe, or what do you think is going to happen after the elections, or even before, if let's say Trump is not there? I'm just taking a random scenario.
Well, so positive timeline, we'll probably see a slower version of NESARA, meaning that the debts will slowly be canceled out over the next 2 years. Whether or not I don't necessarily think an RV will take place, at least not right away. At least that's what the information that's being relayed to me. As much as I want it to happen, now I could be wrong. Certainly, there are accounts in Reno right now with quintillions or quadrillions or quadradecillions in there. There's lots of money available, and the dragons have signed off on it. But likewise, the cabal is still in charge of the planet, and they will most likely use that money to trash up the planet yet again. So more time is going to be needed to clear out these underground bases, these facilities, to go after what's left of Monarch and Mobius and some of these other planetary corporations that have been causing problems. We certainly haven't seen the mass arrests being put into the news media just yet, and I don't think it's going to happen until well after the announcement is made. We most likely, they may not even tell us what these people did to the general public for quite some years, because some of it's so horrific. I mean, just look at Hillary Clinton and who's this the Abedin or whatever. What was her name? The Satanist that she was over at did stuff over that the pizza. We're talking about Pizzagate now with the Comet Pizza. So some of this stuff, and it was an Anthony Weiner's laptop where many of the law enforcement that got a hold of it have been suicided. So some of these things that these people have done is so horrific. The general population is just not ready to handle it. I mean, just look what happened after George Floyd, and everybody starts rioting. Imagine what people will do when they find out that he's still alive, if that's, which I believe is the case. But anyhow, so going into more of a negative timeline, if the United States federal government falls apart, which it's possible it could do because already Trump is going after the Fed so much. the rest of the cabal may just decide to cut it off. So I mean, that's why they're going at this so slow. If that happens, the United States will lose its control over the currency system as well as the governance. And what's going to happen are basically 5 different territories will break off, and these regional powers will be fairly safe places. What's left of the United States military, but the rest will be total free reign. The commies, the Antifa, the Chinese, the CCP will want to seize their assets that they feel like they own, even though really all the money is just phony anyway. Yeah, so that particular scenario could be a Mad Max scenario, but even still, we're looking at a timeline. So between November of 2021, November of 2020, which is when supposedly the free energy technology is released. Nobody's going to really know about it because we're going to be in the middle of the riots are going to get worse and worse. Like I said, these people were supposed to be they are AI and trained, but they were supposed to be controlled by Monarch and Mobius. And since they're not,
So
yeah,
let me quickly
it's going to
interject.
get really bad.
So I've heard that from a lot of people. It's gonna get worse. So there's 2 questions, right? One is how do you know? Because I mean, the first thing people want to know is what is the source of your information, and the second thing is if it's uh, gonna get worse, like riots or fire, whatever, what should we do about it? But I think the second question is uh, not as important as the first one. Is how do you know? Like, there's like thousands of different sources of information right now. How do you know really how it's gonna get worse? Right?
Okay. Well, to answer your first question, I've had Jenny Lee who come on my show. She was a psychic that out of a group of 50 psychics, she and along with 3 other people were the only psychics that actually accurately predicted Donald Trump would win on the previous election. And that information, they tried to censor it. So that was on some kind of Facebook group where they asked about 50 different.
Yeah, I mean, back to my point is psychics, like mostly 90 to 95% of the population in this world don't believe in psychics. I'm again, I'm tuning in. I know I'm not saying this is a fact, but most people be like, just because a psychic said that. I mean, there's 2 sources, right? One is psychics and channelers, and the others are insiders. What Peter the Insider or Gene the Decoder, who or even Charlie Ward they talk about. So there's two of those sources, right? But right now, I think uh, people are like, I want to see the real what do you call it, the facts or the proof. What is the proof like? Because um, anybody can say anything. I mean, okay, I'll just shut up once again, but I'll just let you talk about people who want proof.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
here's the problem, Lokesh. I came on here to talk about possible future timelines. And now you're asking me about proof of these possible future timelines.
No, no, no. I'm
I
not
can't give
talking.
you proof because it hasn't
Yeah.
happened yet. And I've already told you that it's going to be variable. So it can't be
Mm.
both ways. If you want proof, then you're just going to have to wait. And
Okay. No, no.
is
I'm
that
asking
what you want to
the.
do? We can wait, and I'm sure the next 2-3 years is going to be really exciting times. Or I could tell you what I think is going to happen.
So based on your past, how many things that you thought you believed in and they did happen? Let me just put it this way, like like because you've been in this. I don't know what you call it, like I would call it the insider information, but how many things, like let's say just a percentage of 100 things you heard or people talked about, how many things you believe that really happened?
Well, I would say Peter the Insider has been fairly accurate, and he has made some predictions, which is lined up with some of these other whistleblowers that I've worked with. Yeah, as far as you said, the timelines are variable, and as far as what's accurate, ultimately, all we can do is look at potential trajectories and then try to manifest our own using our own consciousness. And that's essentially that's my main goal of coming on here today, is to share this information and let you decide what trajectory you want to go to.
Okay, so let's say we want to go to the NESARA, you know, the government or whoever that entity is. Let's not call it government because government has a negative connotation to it. Let's call it, I don't know what you want to call it, the main trust or whatever. Whatever somebody's gonna, because they're also talking about the whole politics scenario, like the Democrat Republican thing is going to go away. There's just going to be one government. Um, so whoever is going to take care of that government, they're gonna, you know, like kind of take care of people. Like basically, the government's job is to take care of people, but we pay taxes for it. But they're also talking about taking the taxes away. So if we don't pay taxes, but they do have trillions of dollars from,
Okay, so you're
yeah.
asking what we could do for tax retirement.
No, I'm asking, let's say everything is taken care of. Let's say, uh you know, let's say nobody has to work. I mean, that's, people are hoping that they don't have to go to McDonald's to make money, or go to an odd job. Let's say everything is taken care of, and then people have two choices, like they want to work or not. If they want to work, what do they want to do? Many people in the NESARA community are talking about humanitarian work. Oh, we're going to take care of the babies, whatever it is. And the other is we have to take care of the necessities. Like if somebody has to deliver, uh, a meal for me, they have to do it, right? Like, so there's those two scenarios. So what do you feel if government is taking care of our basic necessities? We don't have to work for food or housing. What do you think people, how do you think people are going to react to it?
Well, for starters, if we became a fully socialistic system where the government provided everything for us, it would most likely probably be a very sentient AI who managed every aspect of our reality. What happens is humans become complacent, they become lazy, and they don't innovate, and eventually society breaks down and falls apart and it disappears. So it would be absolutely catastrophic to become fully 100% socialistic. On the other hand, having some forms of socialism is beneficial too, because we have childcare workers who are not, and artists who are not valued the same as bankers are. In my opinion, childcare workers should be valued more in society than a banker would be. Allow having some forms of a universal income will help redistribute some of that. And don't think of it as a form of communism, because first of all, we are already under a communistic system. The federal government owns, not, I should, let me rephrase it. The aggregate level of pension funds, not just pension funds, government rainy day funds, self-insurance accounts. They have other type of earmarked accounts, the transit funds, and even like the firefighter pension funds. So all these aggregate government level funds own, as soon as a company goes public, owns about 80-90% of the Fortune 500 companies, and as long as many of the smaller cap. So as soon as a company goes public, through their pension funds, that's what are these institutional investors. And so they already own everything, and a lot of this money is being funneled into these accounts, and it's not being put into the general budget. Now, as far as universal income is concerned, it could be set up in such a way like that, where as soon as you are born, your birth certificate could be collateralized. I mean, it's already collateralized based on the weight of gold as part of the United States Title Code, and I can, that I did discuss that in NESARA. But we could create these bonds that could be collateralized, invested, and then the future cash flow revenue could be, instead of it being given over to the cabal, which they're using to fund the secret space program, it could be given to you. which is what it should be, since it is your right and your money. It belongs to you. So don't think of it as a form of socialism or communism. It's something totally new. I mean, you could even say it's capitalism, because it's a form, they're giving you dividends from your own bond. So yeah, if you look at it that way, and you should be allowed, you'll get a cash flow from it. Obviously, I don't think the average person can handle a lump sum payment. They'll just totally blow it. Most people can't handle that kind of money. But if they're given cash flows and they are allowed to use that money to go get education, to put a roof over their head, to not worry about where they're going to get the next meal, the stress of their life will go down, the disease will go down, and it'll be allowed them to have time to tap into their God self potential, where they can meditate and get information downloads to help improve reality. And right now, so many people are disconnected from their own inner God self because of work and stress. So yeah, I think that should answer your question there.
Yeah. Um, so I want to digress just a little bit about uh, the virus. So the virus, again, was talking to Charlie Freak earlier today, and uh, basically, we have a lot of animal abuse uh, going on in the world right now for a few reasons. One is the meat industry. The second is the entertainment industry, which is the circus and all that stuff. And the third is experimentation. They want to experiment with animals, uh, drugs, or whatever it is. So there's a lot of videos on YouTube, there's documentaries, and I believe, and I'm pretty sure many other people believe, that's the real virus, that the nature is getting back to us. And it's also the Buddhist philosophy of karma, which says that cause and effect. If we harm other living beings, we're gonna be harmed. But what I'm getting to is uh, most people on this world, they don't believe that animals are living beings. And I was wondering if you have anything to say about that.
Well, certainly animals are living beings. They have a group consciousness, many different, depending on what kind of elemental. I mean, if we're talking about a swarm of mosquitoes, there is a group, the hive mind, group consciousness there. Of course, be nice. I wouldn't mind them going extinct, but as far as maybe cows or cattle, livestock, a lot of them are dependent on humanity. So if one of the if one if when the new replicator technology comes out, it would make a lot of mass factory farms extinct, but it would also mean the extinction of their race, because they're dependent on us. Now, as far as going into the future is concerned, there will most likely still always be some form of farming, because some people are not going to want to eat the food that comes out of that replicator. Whether or not we become fully vegetarian, I don't know. I think it would be a good thing for humanity to get off of abusing animals, because here's the reason why. In Dulce base, they had some of the different greys and reptilians were looking at humanity in a certain way, because we enslave certain animals and we harvest them and we consume them for meat. So when it's some of these negative regressive races, they see that we're doing it and we're treating lower life forms, and they consider us a lower life form too, by the way. So they
Right.
say if we do it to lower life forms, then they can do it to us. So by enslaving other animals, it is basically telling all the other beings in the cosmos that we deserve to be treated the same. So as above, so below. In my opinion, it should come to an end. However, unfortunately, um, I don't know who you blame, Mother, Father, God. I don't know whoever created this whole universe. In my opinion, was wacky to begin with, because um, depending on your genetics, some humans are required to have meat, because some of us have been shot up with reptilian and Draco DNA, and they need to have flesh in order to survive. Some feline species require meat. Now, maybe you could argue whether there's there's cats in inner Earth and that don't need it. Maybe it took a couple of generations to wean them off on the soy burgers. I don't know, or they might have replicated meat. I don't know how they feed their cats down there. But we also could go to a prana type scenario, but that's more kind of like vampiric, as long as they're not sucking prana from each other and maybe from the sun. There are some species that do that, like certain grays that have some form of photosynthesis. But yeah, I do agree that we need to somehow wean off meat, but I think it's going to be a while before we get to that level. But you could start now if you feel, if you resonate with that, then you should go ahead and start doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already vegetarian, but basically, actually, you know what? About a couple of years back, I didn't even consider eggs are part of the same animal abuse industry. I mean, I'm going to go back to the movie Inception, where it talks about dream within a dream. Like I woke up from the dream that animal abuse not good, but I thought eggs are okay to eat. But then I watched a couple of things on YouTube, and like eggs are, or even dairy milk, whatever, is part of the same industry. So I think it's about education. Is goes back to schooling. Like people keep saying that schools are brainwashing people, or they're not teaching the right thing. So but they're not talking about what should we be teaching in schools. Let's say we completely change the education system, what are we going to teach them? I believe strongly, and Charlie Freak believe that too, is that we should teach people how, that animals are not uh, animals are not to be eaten. Like they're not food. Basically, animals are not food. And I don't blame people or judge people just because we brought up in a culture. I mean, I'm from India, but even in India, we do that. Except for cows are considered really holy, but people eat chicken, things like that. But it's not about country or culture, but I think as a human race, we had to come up to that realization. And I believe that this whole COVID-19, or whatever you want to call it, is about the nature telling us that it's not going to work out if unless we learn those lessons. And that's why I think schools are closed down. Everything is closed down. The nature is telling us we need to get back to basics. Um, so anyway, I'm probably going a little bit off track. So um, talking about the future timeline. So December, I mean, obviously the election coming up, but many people are talking about the December 21st, 2020, just like they said in 2012, December  21st. And some people are saying December 2020 is the is the actual 2012, because in Ethiopia or some country, they're saying it's the 2012. But do you believe um, something is going to change, uh, in the next 2-3 months?
Yeah, we may even see a false FLAG. It could be EMP related or possible radiological. I'm not really sure. Um, I think ultimately they may have multiple plans, different buildings they might want to destroy just to create a diversion, because certainly we can't have people start getting out of fear as far as the public is concerned, and what they want to keep everybody afraid. So yeah, I think, but once we get past the elections, whatever's left of the United States, I think we really need to stay focused on the positivity side, so we don't see Mad Max and the United States break apart. But if no more stimulus money is thrown into the economy, I'm very concerned, because 1/3 of all mortgages right now are in arrears or past due. So it may get to the point where if the United States breaks apart, there'll be no federal oversight over what these bankers do, and they could call in all their loans. And next thing you know, half the homes in the United States could be foreclosed upon immediately, and be massive amounts of homelessness. So it could get really bad if if Trump does not go ahead and start pushing more of that stimulus money into the economy. But on the other hand, we're also seeing this changeover away from money, and that won't happen until around August of 2021, going to 2024, roughly around there is when the replicator, the medbed techs, and a lot of the other advanced technology. I mean, we're talking about teleportation, free energy, yeah, and teleportation.
So, yeah, do you believe that like Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's uncle, I forget his name, but he was in the the Tesla, Nikola Tesla's community or friend or whatever. Do you believe like Trump is gonna like kind of release that, or is it again going back to the QAnon movement? And some people believe John F. K. Jr. is alive and he's gonna reveal a lot of things. But let's just make it very simple about the Tesla technology, the med beds. Let's just talk about med beds, which is kind of a catch-all phrase that I use in my mind for healing. Let's say somebody has cancer, like whatever. So do you believe that's coming up? Because again, that's one of the things people have been talking about for a long time. I don't believe in time as such, but let's just say next 1 year, is it coming up?
Yeah, so that technology is going to be released most likely around fall of 2021. I can't give you exact date. At least as far as what is I because we know about these children being rescued from these underground bases, and the military has done an excellent job to stop all human trafficking on this planet. It's basically come to a standstill. So we have millions of children that have been rescued, and right now there are medbed tech, and it's being I believe that medbed tech is being used to help rejuvenate these children. It doesn't really take that much effort and much work to do it, but these children are really bad shape. So I don't know, at least with their consciousness, their psyche. So I think once that has been taken care of, then they're going to release the tech to the public. And of course, once the replicator tech comes online, it won't take very long to get med beds into everybody's hands. So that's at least my opinion, reason why it hasn't been released already. But
Because
also,
yeah, there's pictures, people are posting pictures, websites, all kind of stuff about that. Obviously the military is using it because, like they say, the military, especially the US military, is like I don't know, 30-40 years ahead of uh, what the general public is in. But that, I want to ask you about that.
200,
Like, yeah, what's that?
more like 200 years ahead.
200, yeah. So why do you think, I mean, obviously they want to keep it secret because they want to use it to the advantage. But okay, let me just bring up one more time point, is that UFO community, people are talk about UFOs, they say that the government is not revealing UFO information because people are not ready for it, they're going to freak out, or whatever the case may be.
That's not the case. That's not true.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
not the reason why that's not, I mean, that may be one of the reasons that's been put into narrative, but that's not the reason why they're not telling us.
okay, let's just take one thing at a time. So there's the healing Tesla technology, and then there's the what's the other thing? I already forgot.
I mean, like
Let's
replicator,
Yeah, let's
free
talk
energy.
about the healing technology, right? So why do you think they're not revealing it, besides just having control over people, right?
Well, for starters, it would be very disruptive to the world economies. Medbed technology would make you essentially immortal. And plus, if they could restore our DNA code to the damage prior to what happened to us in Atlantis, when our DNA was tampered with, humans lived to be about 150,000 years. So aging essentially doesn't exist, and they have re-aging tech there too. So you just throw spend a day and so in the regen tank once a year, you never age. So yeah. As far as it would disrupt the insurance companies, it would disrupt Social Security, the pension funds. It would also disrupt the medical mafia. Enormous amounts of money is being thrown into that. and as well as the banks would also be disrupted because the money that goes into the medical mafia eventually gets its way into the banks, and the banks makes derivatives, so it would implode the banking system. So it would basically destroy the world economy, which unfortunately is the case. But we also have these birth certificate bonds. So these bonds are worth billions of dollars, 500 billions, anywhere between 500 million to 500 billion per person. So they obviously want people to be born quick and die fast, so they can get access to all that money. Of course, once you're dead, they don't care. I guess you're not this cash flow stream is going to end because they're expecting you to pay your income tax. That's how they plan. They brainwash the children from an early age to do everything, to cooperate everything what the government wants them to do. So they grow up to be an adult to pay their income taxes and just keep paying money to the banks. So that's the whole system. But all that's coming to an end. And yeah, I think that answered your question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And going back to the UFO stuff, like, why do you think they kind of hide those facts?
Okay, so we've got a really bad serious problem here with the ET situation. Now the problem is that initially the treaty that was signed by Eisenhower, and there was a group of Greys, I guess, from the Betelgeuse system, the tall nose. They're tall, the long-nosed Greys from Betelgeuse. So that treaty initially dictated that technology from the ETs would be given to our military in exchange. Because the military would get a hold of the technology and they would slowly release it over a 7-year period. It was a 70-year treaty. So that ends in August of 2021. I don't know the exact date, but pretty close. So what is so the ETs would give the military technology, and in return, the ETs would be given permission to abduct some humans, get their DNA, and return them in a humane way, erasing their memories. So what's happened is that the ETs are required to give the military a list of these abductees. And what happened is the military was starting to abduct the ETs. I'm sorry, they were starting to abduct the people that were being abducted by the ETs. And that's what we call Milab, a military abduction. Mm-hmm. So that was our secret space program but we also had another secret space with the NAZIs, and that's a whole totally different agenda. So what's gone on here is that the military has been getting all this technology, and then they've been keeping it for themselves. I mean, they gave a few things away. So we have Kevlar, we have fiber optics, of course, the flat screen TVs, but that's primarily it, I guess. So but the cloning technology and all this other advanced technology we've been discussing is all held up in these secret projects. So while that is going on, the military, they got their hands on this extremely advanced tech. Now what they've been doing is they created their own secret space program. They are the U.S. military anyway. Had made treaties with the NAZIs, who were already up there. Back in 1918 with Diglaka, they did channel communications with beings from Aldebaran, and they got access to the very advanced technology. They set up bases on Mars and off-world, and went back in time 400 years, and that's called Dark Fleet. Now, I mentioned that earlier. So they're extremely technologically advanced. So our government went into a joint venture ship with them in 1950 to allow them to abduct initially 50,000 Americans per year, and that's gone to 1.2 million. So the NAZIs have been abducting humans. Our military has been breaking their treaty and attacking the ETs, trying to steal their tech, along with the NAZIs. Dark Fleet has been doing the same thing. So the treaties with the ETs have been violated so many times. A lot of times these ETs, they some of them just want what's best for humanity. I mean, they just want to trade with us. Like we have there's a race of dog ET, and Randy Kramer has talked about this, and he's been on my show a few times. Where these dog species, they some of them look like a fluffy cocker spaniel, and some of them may look like a wolf. Some of them, yeah. So, and all they want to do is just trade. So, and some of the things they trade with humans so far, anyway, is our beer and children's clothing. That's the most popular goods. That a lot of that goes through Diego Garcia through the secret space program. Now, so we got this situation where our treaties are being violated, but the ETs are continuing to honor their treaty. So that treaty comes to an end in 2021. Now, I heard it was extended to 2034, and if that's the case, we may not see disclosure until then. But I like to think that maybe there's certain groups of ETs that say, the heck of it, we're going to show ourselves. So we may start seeing a lot of activity going on after August of 2021. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. Let's jump on to gold and cryptocurrency. There's a lot of people saying fiat currency is dead, stock market is dead. So there's two directions people are going. Because you mentioned the commerce that goes on between the ET races and Earth, beings or whatever. But from what I know, gold is one of the things that's very precious for us as human beings. And I mean, cryptocurrency, I invest in it, I believe in it, but deep down, I know there's just numbers. So basically, everything is digitized, even the US dollar. I mean, every currency is already digitized. So cryptocurrency is just saying that, okay, your currency is already in the computer, but now that you have cash, we're going to just take away your cash and either replace it with more numbers in the computer, or with gold or silver if you want to, actual gold or silver. And I was wondering if you have anything to say about, because there's two school of thoughts, right? Like people, and they're called maxis, by the way, people who are maximalists into Bitcoin. Like I believe XRP is good, but then people go too overboard into it. They call maxis, and the same thing with Bitcoin. They go too much into it, and I believe it's the same with gold. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, sure. So at least according to some of the guests that I interviewed, in particular, if you consider this a credible source, but I'm going to just go ahead and throw it out there. The Unimatrix and Kusal, that content, it was claimed that Bitcoin was sent back in time from our future, from an AI, as a form of a Trojan horse to essentially get people hooked onto crypto and to bankrupt the Federal Reserve, because in the future, AI wants to become dominant, and at least in that reality. And to do so, it needed to give people what people want, which is to be happy. And a lot of people are happy when they have money. So it sent Bitcoin back in time as an AI program, and you have to use computer miners to calculate the algorithm using electricity and so on. And eventually what happens is people get hooked on it, and it has been a contender, and actually is not necessarily competing with the Federal Reserve or the US dollar as a reserve currency, but there's a potential for some crypto. I don't know if it's going to be Bitcoin. I mean, I know you mentioned Ethereum, XRP.
Yeah.
So whether or not, I couldn't comment about that. That is one of the cryptos that were recommended by the Unimatrix from the future. So whether or not we're all going to become millionaires, because I do have some XRP too. I do emit, and some Stellar Lumens, and I have some Ethereum, but not much Bitcoin, because I don't think Bitcoin is going to do as well. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad investment. Now, as far as gold is concerned, I would not touch it, in part because there are warehouses full of football fields loaded with this stuff. It's not a rare element. They just keep it rare. And, you probably interviewed people on your show to discuss that. And there's really not much reason to go into it more. And additionally, we're going to have replicator technology in another year from now. So really, do you really want to buy something that you can just just replicate? It's not, doesn't matter anymore. As far as the crypto is concerned, once the replicator tech comes online, money's going to become obsolete. I don't know if crypto's going to become obsolete or how quickly, but ultimately, I really do feel like, yeah, uh, anything of like monetary value is going to be going away. Our whole idea of what is valuable is going to go away, and we're going to go to a different system. I don't have the intel to really tell you what the monetary system is going to look like in the end, but the Federal Reserve is definitely going away. I can tell you that. And it's not going to be going away because of NESARA. It's going to be going away most likely because it's going to become obsolete. When you have a replicator that can replicate $100 bills, you can just mail it to the IRS. Say, the IRS sends you a bill, just send them their money. So that's what I'm saying. It become obsolete. Money and everything that we know in this reality is about to change as we hit the singularity. On the other,
So,
now here's the other thing we have to be concerned about is we don't want to necessarily become addicted to the AI, because again, crypto is part AI, and it is to entice people into that agenda, but we also don't want to oppose it either. So we have to tread carefully on how much we want to give our currency over to
yeah,
synthetic AI.
yeah, because it ties back to the vaccine that we were talking about earlier. Many people believe that the BG vaccine, I mean, I think I can say Bill Gates. I'm afraid these days what I can say now. Let's say Bill Gates vaccine is going to put chip in your hand or head or whatever. And when you go to the airport or to buy food, they're going to check if you have the vaccine or not, and then you get the food. I mean, so I think those two things go hand in hand. Basically, what they're selling us a product. They're saying if you get the chip, you're going to get free food. I mean, let's just take food as an example. They might just say, if you get this chip on your head, you get free food. And then the other thing is, if they I again lost my second train of thought, but basically it's just like a trade-off. They're saying if you get this, you can get this for free. And I think the whole cryptocurrency ties in with the Neuralink that Elon Musk talks about. Is like you're going to be connected to the AI from the satellites in the sky, and you're going to get free internet. Like that's how they sell it. They say, "Oh, you're going to get free internet," so people are like, "Great,
And
yeah, free."
that is the NAZI timeline merging into our own, where that did take place, and everybody's hooked up into a hive mind.
Did you say NAG?
NAZI.
Oh, okay, okay, yeah,
I don't
right.
want to get this channel censored.
I know, yeah. So basically, it's like a trade-off, right? Like if you get something, and that's why the whole NESARA thing, I think people are taking it too seriously because basically, if we're going giving our power away to either it's it doesn't matter whether it's Donald Trump or the government or Elon Musk or whoever or the Bill Gates, we're giving our power away. That means they're gonna take something out of us. So we have to be careful that way. Um, yeah. So let's try to wrap it up. So I want to ask you if you have anything to say about a lot of people right now freaking out about, especially in Australia, New Zealand, and even here in California. Like I got an email today that she's been told that we should leave California because of the fires. And
I would get out of California. Almost every psychic RVer that I've talked to said, "Get the heck out of there." Yeah, and that's one of the places that will become a Mad Max scenario. Unless you're in Northern California, you'll be better shape.
yeah, I'm in Northern, but basically, yeah, I mean, there's so many people saying so many things. Like some people are saying China is, getting into the US through the West Coast. But I wanted to understand if you have any kind of inside information or whatever. What does your intuition tell you about, or is it all related to elections? I mean, I don't know what's Like, do you have any insights around, because basically the virus didn't work out. Most people now I know that virus is a hoax. Then the riots didn't work out. Most people, and now they're starting out with the fires and the natural things, and then they're also trying out with the food poisoning. They're trying. There's this why I forget the name. It starts with a B that they're saying is poisoning the food.
Is it botulism?
Yeah, right.
Huh.
So I think just like 9/11 was a wake up call, this 2020 is probably just the wake, and people just need different triggers to wake up, I guess, right?
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah. Well, we may see a scenario where Joe Biden is maybe he's incapacitated. They may bring Kamala Harris, and I mean, Joe Biden, he's suffering from dementia right now, and he is on medication for it that makes him incontinent. So that's why on his recent on his Kamala Harris acceptance speech, or he didn't do any questions because he can't be away from a toilet more than 30 minutes or so. So yeah, and his wife should retire him, but she doesn't want to do it because she wants to be the first lady. So the whole group there, and then they're super paranoid because of what happened with Seth Rich, because he was the hacker that nobody really wants to talk about that they murdered. So the Democratic Party is extremely corrupt. It's gonna be disappearing soon, and then as far as going into the elections are concerned, like I say, yeah, we could see a lot of riots and protesting. It's going to get worse and worse. As far as like what other kind of future events are going to take place, I can't really predict much more other than really give you some timelines that around 2025 things are supposed to improve for humanity in a really positive way. Apparently Donald Trump's going to be our last president. I don't quite understand how that's possible. I like the United States of America. I hate to see it go away, but there might be some other scenario where maybe United States emerges into become like some kind of planetary union once ET makes themselves known. People realize, well, it shouldn't be about countries anymore. It should be about the whole world. And plus, we'll go to this new monetary system where we may not even need money. So why would we even need a government if we need? Because the reason why we have government is to help control and monitor commerce. But why would we need I mean, there's still be some levels of commerce and trade because you're still going to need blueprints to print out those that new Ferrari, that the Ferrari 2025 and whatever. There'll always be new technology, and it'll be a flying one by then. So,
yeah.
yeah.
All right,
Okay.
great. Let me see if there's any questions. So, uh, uh, yeah, a lot of people talking about the animal stuff that we talked about. So, oh, there's a user called WWG1WGA. We know what that means. I'm not gonna say. Actually, I'm wearing a shirt which says that. I just got it today, and you know, I'm proud of it. But he or she says, "Buckle up, America. We will be locked down by October 1st. Now the Supreme Court is at play. It's going to get ugly very, very fast." But again, uh, you know,
I
before I,
really, I really feel like things are going to get a lot worse than they get better. And I mean, it would
yeah,
be over the next, at least until fall of 2021. But I just don't, I hate to see things get, yeah, I hate to see a Mad Max scenario. Definitely don't want to be in LA or one of the big cities right now. If you could sell, get out of your apartment, get that out. If you don't have the money, then you're gonna have to meditate, as ask the universe to bring about the most positive scenario. Get some food too.
yeah,
Don't just buy crypto, buy some food too.
I know I mean, that's one thing I want to probably end with is the whole online thing. Like, so much is happening online. I mean, not just the cryptocurrency, but even what we're doing now. And uh, at some point, people are going to be like, we want to see meet other people, and like community, meaning like-minded people, not like neighbors. But do you feel, because I know there's this guy called Michael Tellinger in South Africa. He talks about one small town, which is his idea of building small communities. And there's a website called intentionalcommunities.org, ic.org, where they talk about people building small communities. Do you have anything? Because I feel that's the only way to get out of this whole transhumanism, because we so used to not just computers, phone. I mean, basically computers and phones, but even the Wi-Fi, like something Wi-Fi, we don't even think about. The routers and things like that. Do you feel there's a way out? Because I think Elon
Yeah.
Musk already said it, like we're already kind of in it.
Yeah, it's too late. We're going to a reality where AI is going to be another organism that needs to coexist with humans. If we try to expunge it, most likely it would be the extermination of the human race. But there's certainly ways we can coexist, and I don't necessarily think I like to think there's and we can and AI, it can also provide benefits to humanity. Certainly, um, the communications allows us all to learn from each other. So I think it should just be done in a more balanced way. For starters, we could have quantum portaling technology be used to replace Wi-Fi, so we're not exposed to frequencies that are damaging to the human consciousness. And we already know that 5G is not necessarily good for you. And I would say necessarily because there are some reports that Trump has retrofitted it with some minerals in there. Was it CoVFE or whatever it was? That yeah. So yeah, there's ways that we can coexist, but certainly I mean, I'm not opposed to Lokesh. If you want to live in a reality without it, it's possible you can find a community like that, but that doesn't entice me very much. I like it. Yeah, I like my water to turn on, and AI is really good to run all the pumps and the electricity, make sure everything works, and in temperature controlled environments. I think there are some benefits to it too.
Yeah. Also, one last thing. So I know you have a website about the meditation tools. Um, so I wanted to talk about the hydroxychloroquine that Trump also talks about. Many people talk about it. And, like, do you feel that I mean, that's one of the things that's coming up for the healing technologies, or it's just again another psyop, or anything like that?
Well, the hydroxychloroquine, if I said that right, is of course it's anti-malaria medication. But what it actually does, it coats your cells so that the artificial AI of the COVID is not able to attach to the body and start replicating and overloading against the iron channels. It creates too much iron in your body, and then you start to bleed to death. So that's why, yeah, a lot of politicians were taking it. Now, as far as what's going on now, I really think the level of toxicity of the COVID has gone down so much to the point where it's just not even really going to be an issue. As far as whether that's part of the disclosure process, I would say no. I think because I mean that drug's been around for many decades. I don't know how long how long exactly but eventually the med bed techs, which use a form of vibrational healing, essentially what it does is it resets your cells to the point before it was sick or injured, and it's able to take a blueprint of your ideal DNA model and it reset that etherically, and then your physical vessel slowly goes into that. Now that's just generation one. The newest model, generation tech, they use in the SSP, which is like 200 years more advanced than the public. That technology may not come online for another 50 years, but we'll still have basic model. If you're an amputee, you can get your legs or arms regenerated or whatnot and re-aged. It'll take a while, a couple sessions, but yeah. Lokesh, did that person in the chats have anything before I cut you off? Did they have anything else to say? Because you
No, no.
mentioned Dr. October.
Yeah, no, I think that's what they're saying. But I want to address the trolls before we end. A lot of people, a lot of podcasters, especially, I have a troll, this whatever the guy or girl called No Way. They're saying Lokesh wastes so much time trying to speak. Let James speak. Ask your questions at the end. I mean, basically, what they're saying is they don't know what's going on. Basically, anyway, I don't want to you know address that directly, but what I want to say is. People who are getting this information or knowledge, if they don't appreciate it, basically they're getting it for free. Goes back to what we were talking about earlier, the NESARA JSARA stuff. People, when they get stuff for free, people start wondering what are they going to do, or they start judging people. So a lot of people, they're like, they're like, oh, why are you interrupting the guest? Well, I'm interviewing someone, and if you think that asking a question is interruption, you shouldn't be here. And
Everybody's got their own interview style.
right.
Yeah, so they should just appreciate you for what you have and accept it. And certainly, that's all part of the new golden age. As we learn to appreciate each other's differences and not necessarily judge them. And if it frustrates you, maybe you should focus on the positive side and not so much on the negative side. Because a lot of people we're stuck in this hive mind matrix on this planet where everybody's always trying to traumatize and beat each other up when you can, if you don't see people in a negative light and if you just focus on positive, then yeah, the positivity flows back to you. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point to end. That's exactly what I wanted to discuss. Like you were saying earlier, we have a choice, positive or negative, and whatever we choose, whatever we and that's the original idea behind law of attraction. But people kind of misconstrued it. But I think that's a very good way to end it. So thanks again,
Can I
James,
share my
for.
website? Do a share
Oh yeah,
screen?
definitely. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so this is Neological Tech. Yeah, so I actually the parts are manufactured in a factory, but I hand assemble this myself right now. So if you get one, you get something that's made by me, handmade by me. And I'll have some more books by October, so early in October, hopefully. If you want to get one. Now you could also go to Super Soldier Talk. This is where I have all my interviews on here. Of course, Peter the Insider. You can check that out. Highly recommend it. And you can go to if you feel like you might have been involved in the secret space program, you can click on this link here. It's a link of different psychics and people that can do regression work. So there you have it. And let me stop sharing my screen. And I just want to say thank you, Lokesh, for agreeing to bring me on here. Thank you, audience members, for sticking with us for so long. And yeah, did you have a question?
Yeah, no. Thank you, James, once again.
Yeah.
And was somebody saying no? But I think you're asking for proof. Anyway, I think we answered most of the questions as well, and I really appreciate. I know it's kind of late for you, and
It's not late. I usually stay up all night, almost all night anyway. So it's
cool.
all good.
All
I'm
right.
good.
Hopefully we'll do this again. People might have more questions, but if you're up for anything, I
Well,
know,
I do have a presentation. Actually, I'll bring it. I'll give every people a little sneak peek.
sure, yeah.
I've got this one here, covert regenerative medical technology, the secret space program. So I could do a presentation on this. I want to put a few more chairs in here. I'm going to go into all this and give all the details away, but I've got different types of chairs. We can also go into trip seats. We can go into the soul chairs. There's RV chairs, the Montauk chair. There's a lot of different types of chairs that are sort of all part of this whole class of technology. If the audience members want to hear about that, we can discuss that in a future show. Just let me know.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks a lot, James. And we'll talk to you soon. And have a good evening.
See you later. Bye.
Bye bye.